right, I hope you guys are ready to geek out a little bit on the Purcell Prusik. It's another way to anchor yourself in that is completely adjustable, and it's really affordable, and you make it yourself. So you'll start by taking a cordelette, and you want it to be relatively long. This one particularly might be actually a little too long, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. You'll attach both ends together in whatever way you want, whether it's a flat overhand, a double fisherman's knot, or a Flemish bend, and make sure it's properly tightened, plenty of tail, and offset that knot just slightly, just enough to girth hitch back into your hard points later on. And so now we're going to keep that knot right where it's at and run our hands along to the other side of the cordelette. Take that cordelette around your hand, and you're just going to rest that on your hand. Choose two fingers, your thumb and another finger, and you'll start wrapping loops around both fingers 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 on that finger, 1, 2, 3 on the other finger, equal number of wraps on each finger, and then connect those fingers together. And that should look familiar to you after having watched all of the friction hitch videos. That is a Prusik over my fingers. And so I'm going to go ahead and thread some of that material back through the Prusik to create a larger hole here. And I'm just going to take the rest of that material and I'm going to pull all of that material through that Prusik that I've made. And then doing your best to kind of keep that measurement on the other side of the cordelette as you begin to tighten that Prusik down and redress it. So it takes a little bit of finagling to pull that Prusik so that it's tight. And that actually worked out fairly easily for me this time. So you want the point that's going to be taking the load coming out of the center of the Prusik, and that tongue to be coming off of the edge of that Prusik there. So that tongue is coming off of both edges. And now what we have is an ability to adjust our anchor points. So now that I've measured this out on the other end, I'm going to thread that through my hard points. And that knot is nice and out of my way, as I like it. And now I have a way to adjust my anchor when clipping into an anchor point, because that Prusik will grip for me. So now you see why this particular piece of material is too long for this application, because if I'm actually weighting this Prusik and it's at its shortest setting, I won't actually be able to unclip myself because it's farther than my arms can reach. If I made this for myself, I would use a shorter cordelette, or I would make these tails of my joining knot much longer so that I can actually reach my carabiner. So that is one disadvantage, is that you do have a lot of versatility, but the shortest setting is only half the length of your longest setting. As I adjust it, if I wanted it longer, then once I weight this piece of material, that Prusik will grip the line for me. This is a really secure way to create your own adjustable anchor system. It's also very useful and applicable in rescue settings. Also, here's another way that you can attach your two ends together by going in opposite directions there, and then offsetting this loop here to be long enough to girth hitch back through. And so you see here, I have my tails in opposite direction, and I'm grabbing the other side of that bite that I'll be using later on, and I'm going to take all 3 of these strands and tie an overhand. so that it can be a little bit cleaner, so that your tails aren't as in your way. And that way, this is the loop that you're going to be girth hitching into your harness, and this is the loop that you'll be creating your Purcell Prusik with. Another way of attaching both ends of the rope together for a finished Purcell that gives you one extra leg so that you might be able to attach your rappel into. And so we're going to start with both tails, and with one side, you're going to create a loop that is about the length that you'll end up wanting for your rappel device. And then on the other side, that same strand, you're going to create a loop about as long as what you'll need for your girth hitch and your harness. And with all 4 of those strands, you are going to tie an overhand. And keep in mind with any of these overhands that I'm using, you can also use a figure 8. Cool. That might be even a little longer than what I need it to be, but that's okay. And so now I'm just going to follow this material all the way to the very end of the longest leg. And at the very end there, start to make my Purcell here. And there it is, my Purcell. And an extra leg. Leg, my rappel leg, and my girth hitch loop. And like you see, my girth hitch loop it could be a little bit shorter. It's okay though where it's at. It just means that I can't slide this Prusik down as far. Now I have my Prusik leg that I can adjust as I need it, just like that. And I also have this extra leg here that I could absolutely use for my rappel. Continuing a little bit further down the rabbit hole, if you want more than one piece of material through your rappel or your girth hitch, then you can take both tails together, create one leg down here for your rappel, one leg up here for your girth hitch, and then take all of that and tie yourself a big honkin' overhand and adjust it here. Trying your best to keep those tails involved in that knot so that the system is secured. Okay, so now those tails tight, still applicable. We still need an appropriate amount of tail for this knot, and so now we have 2 loops here that you can use for your rappel, 2 loops that you can use for your girth hitch, and 1 big long leg that you can tie a Purcell in. Alright, I've gone and tied my Prusik, and voila, it is complete. There's nothing to be left to desire, except for perhaps a less bulky and time-consuming apparatus. So here we go. I've got the shorter leg, 2 honkin' pieces of material through my rappel, and a nice long Purcell here. That's actually a really appropriate length now that I've occupied all of the rest of the material and all this other stuff down here. I can actually, reach the extent of the leg, which is ideal when you are selecting material to build your Purcell for yourself. You want its longest setting to be as far as you can reach, because it doesn't really do you any good if you can't reach its longest setting. So there's that. And just so you guys know, I have this cordelette here is 7 mil, so it's strong enough to hold a body on a single strand. Anything smaller than this isn't appropriate unless you're using tech cord, because tech cord is a little bit stronger than this nylon. So it can be a little bit smaller in diameter, and